My daddy was a miner.
The imposing presence of Overton Hall, family seat of Joseph Banks, the distinguished 18th century naturalist, greets visitors to this leafy, secluded corner of Derbyshire close to the village of Ashover. Were he still around, he'd doubtless approve the motives of this gathering of mine explorers, as he was also a dedicated and successful explorer. He frequently visited Overton and the prosperous Gregory and Overton lead mines on his estate, and would doubtless also visit these outbuildings now transformed into a superb dwelling. Our presence has alerted the keen senses of in-house security, and he makes it his business to check out intruders as they descend on his patch. The smell of plastic trousers isn't too familiar, but with a puzzled look he lets us pass anyway. Our trip convener Liz chats to Ruth, the owner of the cottage and mine shaft round the back, the descent of which gives us access to the old lead workings beneath Overton. Ruth kindly confirms that all is in order, and we can look forward now to our day underground.
No, I said, there's nothing down there old. I did send you out the whiskey, because that's usually on the
In no time work begins for our descent, and like some outsized Meccano set, metal supports, brackets and pulleys are assembled and attached to a small motor, which will drive the winch that gets us effortlessly up and down the shaft. Our group gathers round the head of the shaft. Not long to go before we can descend into the cool, permanent shade of our familiar world.
On that winch. Did you come back on this? Wait for it.
Roy has cleverly converted a dependable motor mower engine into a reliable winch by fitting it with a sturdy cable and clutch. Safety has to be a priority. He keeps a watchful eye on every moving part and always insists on a test run to calibrate the cable so he'll know when to slow down and give us a soft landing at the bottom. The cable is reassuringly strong and will support the weight of several saloon cars. The tiny seat pops out and signals that at last it's time to go. Who's next? The seat looks a confusing jumble of wires and ropes, but Pete's made many descents and knows the drill well.
Oh, my spade!
Don't show me camera, will you, Pete?
Oh yeah, when do you want your camera back?
Are you going to try and get up the telephone? Dave?
Yeah?
Because you won't see him halfway there. So
well, he will with us. The first few metres of the shaft is lined with gritstone blocks to keep back the loose material round the shaft top. It's called ginging. You can see how carefully the blocks have been cut to fit into an almost perfect circle. Its exact date of construction is unknown, but it's certainly before 1806, when the mine ceased to be productive. Over the years, water containing traces of iron and other minerals has seeped through the rock and evaporated to form beautiful concretions.
It just swings across, you see, and you hang off that.
At a depth of 80 feet, it would have taken over a year to drive in the hard limestone, and the size suggests that it would have been used for haulage rather than access. The descent's almost complete, and looking down you can just see Pete getting out of the chair at the bottom.
Okay.
Quite a bit of rubble's found its way down the shaft over the years, so originally it would have been quite a bit deeper. The result is an awkward slippery scramble down through a low arch. But the passage soon opens up, and the majority of the mine from now on is relatively easy going. The candle's a traditional way of letting other visitors know that someone's at home. The last one out turns the light out. It isn't long before we begin to see signs of mining activity, and in the far corner is a stack of waste rock known as deads. The stack is often referred to as a pack.
But that's like a shale filling. Is that...
In the top left of this shot can be seen the neat furrows made by the miner's pick, often done just for the sake of neatness or to round off a corner.
Scale of it, won't you?
Where does that lead to?
That goes back under the main shaft.
All right. The space between the walls here is filled with waste material, but originally most of the gap would have been filled with a lead-rich mineral, called a vein, which was picked out and sold by the miners. Traces of minerals and crystals still enhance the otherwise barren walls. The horizontal shot holes in the walls of this passage and throughout this section of the mine date from when the mine was enlarged and reworked in the 1960s for fluorspar. The limestone in which the lead veins occur is a very hard rock formed 350 million years ago of millions of microscopic seashells, but here and there are traces of the larger shells. Records show that Overton Mine was in production as a lead mine from the middle of the 17th century right through until 1806, when losses on unproductive ventures led to its closure. It enjoyed 45 years of good profits, but the most productive time was when Overton and nearby Gregory veins met in the late 1700s, when yields worth £15,000 a year were recorded, 12 million at today's values.
A bit higher up, I think.
Thin mineral veins occur here in the roof, but contain little lead and would hardly have been worth mining.
I don't think that's anything to do with this is like mudstone.
Could it be
isn't it?
quartz?
Could it be what do you call it for me? Gypsum.
Now that's an old tub, an old mining tub.
Well, it's 1950s. I won't say that old.
All right.
On the steel rollers, and then that
Oh, I see.
will flick down.
Well, you can see the ribs where it's been, you know,
It's reinforcing.
yeah.
What, double line?
The shaft we're approaching now is 100 feet from the surface and was used by the later fluorspar miners for hauling men and materials. The tangled rusting remains of the cables can still be seen. It's known by us as number 1 shaft. Okay.
Yep.
That's daylight through those chinks.
I'll actually crawl into that. Come out very orange to the rail.
You are, aren't you?
Put an angle line in here. What's your one? Down below. Yeah.
He's orangey. That was a dead end then, was it?
It's hard to say. It's full of horrible mudstone stuff.
Yeah.
You could dig it out. I wouldn't say it's a dead end.
The process of mineralisation took place millions of years ago, when hot mineral fluids found their way into cavities and cracks in the rocks at a time when there were still massive earth movements and the landscape was still evolving. You can see the grooves on the rock face, made when two masses of rock forced their way past each other. It's called slickensides. Climbing down the steep, slippery slopes will take us to regions of the mine where we'll encounter flooded workings, which caused the miners so many problems 200 years ago.
Have a look in there then.
Pumping engines were installed at nearby Gregory Mine, which connects with Overton Mine, to drain these tall, narrow passages. But once the mine was abandoned, the water table returned to its former level, and even in very dry conditions, such as we're enjoying at the moment, water can pose a serious barrier to further exploration. But, as you'll see later, there's always the intrepid few who'll rise to a challenge.
It's usually about that island there.
But what about the stemple above your head? Is it up to that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
it's usually... no, it's here.
Right, so the water level drops.
It's been moved from here.
Right,
Yeah, because you're usually in water where you are.
right, so it's dropped quite a bit then.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
You going?
I'm going to get a bit nearer to you in a minute. Wow.
Yeah, that's about it.
Right.
You can traverse it.
Right, let's see.
Okay. You can go about another 120 foot before you come to another flooded rift. Right. So if you want to traverse,
You got to do it?
are you going to do it? Maybe not.
Can we swear on this video or what then, or is it?
Yeah, of course you can.
So, fuck, I've got wet.
I might.
It's deep past there, Lyndon, so don't fall in. I think if you stay high up, it's easier.
Just a lot further falling back of you.
I can see him falling in.
Go on, brother.
You can step. I'll just jump in there. You can step on that, can't you?
Go on, Lyndon.
It's not very deep there, mate. You're jumping like it.
Going in there.
No, it's only 4 foot there, you'll be alright. It's only knee deep there. It gave way.
It's a piece of piss shield.
It gave way.
So it's back to the real world after an excellent day's exploration. Who knows what exciting new discoveries await future explorers of this fascinating old lead mine.
Try and face as you are.
Yeah. That way.
No, face me, this way. Alright. Bit more. Keep in.
What about me? What about me?
Where have you been all this time?
Been up the roller rift.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Dug out 2 cases.
Oh.
Yep. And
That's
it
what you-
goes on.
That's what you tell us.
We found some new bits as
I
well.
think I got all.
I don't know,
road-
you tell me.
Yeah.
Why's
No,
all your
yeah,
back dirty?
Yeah. Sliding down backwards. The right hand turn.
Oh, I know, yes.
The right hand turn, the roller rift.
I know what you mean, yes.
And he's dug it out, so, but we just didn't have time. Because Peter came along then, so
All right.
I think we better go home.